Hello and welcome to the Scots Sports Show. I'm Drew Patrick. A lot happened in the world of Edinboro sports this past week. Let's take a look. Let's start with football. The team made a long travel to Rensselaer, Indiana to face off with the St. Joseph's Pumas. It was Coach Justin Lustig's first game as Edinboro's head coach, and he gets a victory. 31-30 in this one. Walter Fletcher, the redshirt freshman, had a coming-out party. 22 rushes for 180 yards and 2 scores of 50-plus yards. Jake Sisson had a good day. 30 for 48, 234 yards, 2 touchdowns. He did have 2 picks. And the Boro defense was dominant in this game with 6 sacks, a forced fumble, and an interception. The Fighting Scots football team is back in action this Saturday as they travel to Lock Haven to face off with the Lock Haven Bald Eagles. The cross-country team hosted their one and only home meet this past weekend.
Through here. Okay. Come on. Oh.
Doesn't matter, anyone.
The women's soccer team started off this year with a bang. They had 2 home games to start their season. Edinboro, in their first game, they get a great win over PSAC foe Clarion. Alex Brown and Colleen Broadman had a goal each, and the team outshot Clarion 24-5. Then on Saturday, Edinboro was back in action against Davis and Elkins College, and they get a shutout. Another goal by Alex Brown and Colleen Broadman, and 2 goals by 2 freshmen. Also, they outshot Davis and Elkins College 19-2. The Edinboro volleyball team traveled to Boulder, Colorado to take place in the Golden Ore Digger Classic. Edinboro unfortunately went 0-4 in their 4 matchups, losing 0-3, 1-3, 0-3, and 1-3. Latoya Hutchinson over the weekend had 27 kills in the 4 games, and Sydney Trathan had a good tournament with 20 kills, 3 aces, and 33 digs in the tournament. The volleyball team returns to action this week. Also in the news, the tennis team. They went out and won the Gator Invitational, so congratulations to the tennis team as well. We're going to head over to the couches, and we're going to talk with Coach Justin Lustig coming up. You don't want to go anywhere. Stay right here.
There's one thing you can never have sex without.
It's not something you buy.
Or something you take.
In fact, there's only one way to get it.
It has to be given to you. Freely.
It's consent.
Because sex without it isn't sex.
It's rape. Consent.
If you don't get it, you don't get it. It's on us to stop sexual assault.
Learn how and take the pledge at itsonus.org.
So good to see you guys. So, what's up?
We finally bought a place.
Holy cow!
You seriously have enough saved to do that?
We've been putting a little aside each month.
Jeez, at the end of the month, we have nothing left to save.
Yeah, I have no idea where it goes.
Well, you're spending a lot on...
Was it good?
Oh, God.
Oh, how is my account overdrawn?
When it comes to financial stability, don't get left behind. Get tools and tips for saving at feedthepig.org.
Hello and welcome back to the Scots Sports Show. I'm now joined by my broadcasting partner, George Tubby Schmidt. And we are going to talk Edinboro football. And joining the two of us is head coach Justin Lustig, fresh off of the first career win as a head coach and the first win this season in the first game. So, Coach, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, it's good to be here, and we're excited to go into week 2 1-0. So this is always makes it a little bit easier.
And, Coach, let's talk about that game. The travel and everything that happened before the game. How do you feel your team did with putting that behind them?
Yeah, I think there was a lot of obstacles that we had to deal with, and from the travel, the long trip to the heat, we saw that become a factor late in the fourth quarter. So I thought we did a really good job. I thought the guys were very mature on the trip and took a business-like approach, and that's what we talk about is, hey, this is a business trip. This is not. We're not going to SeaWorld or Cedar Point. We're going to win a football game.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, you mentioned the maturity. The team is full of freshmen and redshirt sophomores, so people who are playing relatively early on in their career. And penalties were a big thing in this game. Your team, only 4 penalties throughout the whole, and none of them really behavioral penalties.
Sure.
What does that speak to for your team?
Yeah, I think that's something we've been harping on since we've gotten here is control what you can control, and you've probably heard me say it a million times, but that's important to us is that, hey, penalties is something that we can control. We can control our discipline and our focus, and I think our guys did a good job with that, and especially when you compare with our opponent and their 10 penalties. So that was a significant part of the game and gave us a big advantage.
Having worked with these guys since spring, through the spring drills, then into summer camp, finally putting it all together on the field, was there anything that really shocked you or still like, wow, I didn't know that this kid had it in him? Or?
Yeah, no, I think, Walter Fletcher, for example, he was doing that in spring practice, and so we expected him to have a good game, and he certainly did. And Jordan Williams is another guy. That one-handed catch he made, he's done that 2 or 3 times in practice. So, we were certainly excited about those things, but there weren't a bunch of surprises. I think, we had some freshmen step up. Maurice Sims and Tanaz Gregory really stood out to me, had solid games, and they kind of played like they practiced, and that's encouraging to see because you want to be a consistent team and you want to have a good idea of what's going to take place in the game as a coach beforehand, and I felt like we had a pretty good idea.
Let's talk about your quarterback, Jake Sisson. How do you feel he did for his first game of the year?
Yeah, I think for the first game of the year, he did well. I think he still has to clean up a few things, and I'm still a little bit down on the interceptions. That's something that we cannot do, and we got to take better care of the football. But he passed the ball very accurately, and I think we had a lot of drops. I don't have the exact number, but I think his numbers are a little skewed because of those drops and could be even higher than what they were. So overall, he had a very good day, and as a starting quarterback, he got the win for us. So we're excited about that. And, Coach, I asked you about this right after the game, but I want the Scots Sports Show viewers to understand. On the box score, it says Jake has negative 20 yards. Yeah. Half of that was on one play at the end of the game, and right. And can you talk me through what that play was? Sure. So so I've got a chart that actually the head coach at Ball State and I put together a couple years ago, and on that chart, on that sheet of paper, has multiple things. We've got a 2-point chart to tell us when to go for 2-points towards the end of the game, and we also have a chart that tells you exactly how much time is needed or is left where you can take a knee. And we knew at that point that we had to kill 10 seconds off the clock, and we basically had 2 plays to do it. So we had a 3rd down and a 4th down play, which what I didn't want to do is get to 4th down where we had to punt. And obviously with what had happened with our long snapper, that was something that we really didn't want to do. So that's a play we call milk, and we work that in practice, milk the clock. And we did a nice job, and Jake did a great job of getting all of those 10 seconds on the first play. We knew we had one more play. If he were to get hit early, and we only got 6 seconds off the clock. We knew we had a second chance to get 4 more seconds off the clock and finish the game out.
And Coach, now moving forward to this week, Lock Haven on the schedule. What have you seen from that team?
Yeah, Lock Haven, what really stands out with them is their quarterback. You know, they've got a guy that's been playing for a long time and set the school record for passing touchdowns last year. So he's certainly a guy that we have to be aware of and challenge. He's got some weapons that he can throw to. He's got a slot receiver, number 2, who's a very good player. He's got a tight end that's a very good player. And then defensively, I think they're a good group. There's not too many individuals that stand out, but they create some problems for you technically with the 3-3 stack that they do, and they do a lot of multiple things that our guys really have to be communicating and doing a nice job of picking up all the different blitzes.
The high-paced, high-octane, high-tempo offense that you've established so far with this game in St. Joe's, moving that forward to Lock Haven, is there a lot of that same type of thing that we can look forward to coming up?
Yeah, that's going to be us. You know, I think there might be times where we'll want to slow it down, but you know, I always felt when I was on the defensive side of the ball that the tempo and changing up tempos is something that puts a lot of stress on the defense. So the other thing that does is it allows us week in and week out to prepare for tempo because we're going against our offense. So that was another part of when we were kind of putting together what offense and defense we wanted to be. I thought it was important to, hey, if our offense is going fast all the time in practice, when we play Slippery Rock, when we play Lock Haven, and we play St. Joe's, because nowadays almost every offense is like that, we'll be a little bit more prepared.
And Coach, thank you so much for joining us here today, and best of luck the rest of the year.
I appreciate it. You guys do a great job, and it's awesome to be here.
Thank you. And don't go anywhere, because we will be right back after this.
To compete for a championship in stadiums full with cheering fans and families. To give back. To say thank you for your support. To learn, grow, and prepare for the future. Ask any NCAA student athlete what they want, and this is what they'll tell you. Ask these student athletes, and they'll say with pride, I chose Division II.
The NCAA Division II student-athlete experience goes beyond the classrooms and playing fields. It means a commitment to service and community, helping organizations like the Make-A-Wish Foundation by raising money to help grant the wishes of children with life-threatening medical conditions. Kids like Jacob.
Some student-athletes gave of their time and their energy to raise the money.
It was fun to meet Jeff Gordon.
NCAA Division II, training student-athletes for lifelong achievement.
Welcome back to the Scots Sports Show. We are now going to move and talk about the other football, soccer. We're here with Coach Gary Kagiavas and Shannon Regan. Guys, thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for the invite.
So, Coach, I'll start with you. You have played 2 games thus far and 2 wins, both at home. What have you seen from your team this year?
Well, we are a very resistant bunch. We hold our own. We don't have huge numbers this year. Not because for any other reason, just some kids just didn't come in for preseason. But our group of kids that we have play really hard, and 90 minutes in 90 degrees is pretty hot. So we do pretty well just by maneuvering our kids in different positions and holding off the attack from the other teams.
Yeah, how do you plan for that? The crazy weather that is this area of the country, that we had 90-degree games, we might have a game with snow. So what do you do to prepare for that?
I don't think there's anything you can prepare. You just have to have a mindset that no matter what it is, it's the same for them too, and hopefully you'll be better than they are at the end of the day. But again, living in this area, it kind of helps out, because if it does snow, we're prepared for it, and other teams aren't. But 90 degrees is something we're not accustomed to.
And Shannon, I saw you smiling at that question. So is there something you guys do to prepare?
We just tell ourselves, like, right before the game starts, that it's the same for the other team, and just forget about the weather. Like, if it's really hot, if it's snowing, like, it's just another game, just like practice.
I want to talk about your defense. Your defense has been great in these first 2 games. You guys have actually allowed only 7 total shots on by the offense of the other team. What do you have to say for your defense?
Well, Shannon's a big part of that. If you look at the way our team is structured, we have great leadership at the back with Shannon and Jess and Grace being another defensive midfielder. We have Abby and Haley Hammer, who was a very offensive-minded contributor last year that now is also funneled into the defense. So with the numbers being short, we have to try and make sure that we don't give up too many goals. And with being the offense that we have that we can score, if we can get 1 or 2 goals and then get through the game like that, because we really don't have a lot of numbers that we can throw into the games.
Yeah, Coach, from what I've seen, you tend to keep basically like the ball at the opposite end of the court and just simply away from your goal and just maintain. Is that kind of like a difficult strategy to try to maintain, or is it just something that just happens?
Well, we train at a lot of stuff. Depending on what the strengths and weaknesses of other teams are. Like use Clarion, for example, the other day when we were 2-0 up, we tried to maintain possession because they kept substituting a lot of players. So we go all the way back to the goalkeeper and try to keep possession, make them have to work hard to get the ball. Once we pull them out of their defensive mindset that they have, then we try and attack in behind them and have our forwards who are pretty fast try and get in behind or through a combination to try and get in. So there is a game plan. The game plan varies game to game, who you're playing, the opponents, etc., etc. And the girls, because they have such experience, they're able to deal with whatever I'm asking them to do.
Shannon, can you speak a little bit about that? How part of the returning crew, bringing along some of the new people in, and how you guys managed to gel as a team?
Last year, we have like the same team chemistry as last year. When we're on the field and when we're off the field, we just all want to be together. We have like a group message where we just all talk daily. Like Gary, like when we come in the first week, he's like, "These are your best friends." So we start that mentality, and it really shows on the field because we work for each other on and off the field. We're always like there for each other. And we were speaking earlier about keeping the ball on the farther end of the field. Like Gary told us before that if you keep the ball composed and keep the ball on the ground, you're not as tired. So that's why we can last like full games. So we just work for each other.
Yeah, and this week we've played 2 games in the comfort of our own stadium, and now you get to travel out to Shippensburg and Millersville. What is the game plan for those 2 games?
Well, it's a whole different ball game now because the fields are bigger, which means a lot more work. Our field's a bit smaller. We're able to funnel people into certain areas. When we play teams that are extremely athletic, which these 2 teams will be, and the larger field will make it a bit more of a challenge for us. I think, though, ultimately, if we stay organized and if our defense is organized, I think we got a chance to win both games. At the same time, the PSAC is the 3rd most difficult conference in women's Division II soccer. There's about 25 conferences, and you can lose at any time. I mean, last year we lost to Millersville and Lockhaven, who were 2nd and 3rd from the bottom. So you can lose at any time in this conference.
And same question to you. What do you do to prepare for these 2 away games?
Well, we listen to the scouting report 2 practices before the game, right before the game. We just, whatever Gary has to tell us, like what players to mark and how they play. Really just you go into every game with the same mentality before. We try not to get overwhelmed and like work ourselves up. It's just a new game, a new object, like win the game.
And with these games being back-to-back road games, how do you go about that with coaching? Like how do you prepare for a back-to-back on the road?
Well, every game's got its own scouting report. Every game's got its own preparation. We try sometimes with the first game, try and have something that's in preparation for the second game. Not always, depending on formations, depending on what it is, but there's always something that you can always try and carry over to the second game. Again, playing in these big fields is going to, I think it's going to be difficult for us to come away with 2 wins this weekend, just because of the tiredness of the legs and I'm going to say we probably could be better than both teams. I'm just not sure numbers-wise if we're going to be able to sustain the level that we need to win both games.
All right, Coach and Shannon, thank you guys so much for joining us here today, and we wish you the best going forward.
Thank you
very much.
The Scots Sports Show will return right after this. Don't go anywhere.
My experience at Perico has been so great. I feel like it's really my time for school now. I tried going back to school when I first graduated from high school. I just wasn't ready.
It's closer to home. It's very much more affordable than the other colleges in the city. When I finished my degree here at Perico, it would provide me with higher pay. I can actually grow more in my company than I would if I wasn't going to school.
Perico College, affordable, career-ready education.
We dig deep.
We overcome obstacles.
We come together.
We prepare.
We hit the ground running.
And we achieve our goals.
We train hard.
And we compete even harder.
We reach new heights.
We win.
And at Edinboro University, we create champions on and off the field.
Welcome back to the Scots Sports Show. We are now going to talk some cross country. We're now joined by first-year head coach, Coach Ryan Foster. Coach, thanks for joining us.
No problem. Good to be here.
So let's talk about that. This is your first year here. So what was that transition like, getting the job and starting?
I was actually in Australia at the time I got the job, so it was pretty hectic. Probably had about 4 weeks to get moved over here and get settled in. But I've been lucky. Coach Annie Carlson, the head track coach, has kind of had me teed up to hit the ground running, so it's been a really good start.
And your teams this year, let's talk, since this is your first year and your teams, how have they come to really respect you as the coach? How have they gelled with you?
I think we've got off to a pretty good start. I'm lucky that Edinboro has such a strong tradition in cross country. So I got to walk into a place that already has a fantastic environment. The athletes are all very motivated, so there wasn't kind of any having to build things from the ground up. It's a ready-made program. I kind of think of it as a plug and play. You plug the new coach in, and for me, it's just about building one-on-one relationships with the athletes, getting to know each other, me getting to know them as athletes, them getting to know me as a coach. But I think it's been a pretty smooth transition. We've really got off to a good start.
And now let's talk about those teams. This weekend was the Doug Watts Distance Gala over at our course. The first cross-country course at home, or the first cross-country meet at home, does that add anything to our team, being able to run where they practiced?
Yeah, you always have a home course advantage. And it's also, you have a little bit of extra motivation because you want to protect the house. We certainly didn't want to lose. On the men's side, we did get the win on the ladies. We were a pretty close second, so I thought we had a good result. But yeah, there's definitely always a little bit of extra motivation at home.
And so those teams, let's start on the ladies' side. Who stands out for you, and what can we expect the rest of the way?
Obviously we have a big standout in Emma Sullivan. She's a senior who works extremely hard. She carries between 80 and 90 miles a week, which is pretty rare for a college athlete to be able to carry that type of workload. And it shows in how fit she is. We're hoping for her to be able to contend for conference titles and go to nationals and try to be All-American. For her, that's kind of the goals. We have a couple of really good sophomores, Abby Lang and Abby Peters, following along behind her. So, I'm hoping on the ladies' side for those two to really follow Emma's lead and get pulled along this year. And then we're just working on kind of building our depth behind kind of our front three through the year.
And let's switch gears now on the men's side. How do you see that team?
I guess team is probably the operative word for the guys. We're very deep. We had 7 guys finish within about 30 seconds of each other. We packed up and ran through 3 miles as a group, and then kind of let them loose over the last 2. Brian Gear was our #1 guy. I don't think that will play out that way every week. I think that we're going to be a team that has a rotating lineup of who's leading us each week. which is a really good spot to be in. You know, you're never going to have 7 guys run their absolute best on any given day, so we need to have people stepping up week in and week out, which I really think they can do.
And how much does that add to a team? Because a lot of people aren't really sure how cross country is scored, but to have a pack like that is what does that add to the team?
Well, in cross country scoring, you know, your top 5 count towards your team score, and it's lowest score wins. So if you go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, you score 15 points, you'll never lose. Outside of that, your 6 and your 7 can displace other people's top 5s to give them a higher score. So, you know, it really is important to have a strong 5. You know, if you only have 5 guys and one has a bad day, if you can't cover that, you're going to really add a lot of points to your total. So I always assume on any given race that I'm going to have 1 or 2 of the guys who don't live up to expectations, but because we have the depth all the way down, you know, probably through 7, 8, 9 even, I have the guys who can step up and cover that. So my guess is we'll have a different top 5 every race this year.
Wow, that's really, I mean, that's great to have a revolving top like that.
Yeah.
So we have a little break before the next meet. The next meet on the schedule is the meet at Michigan State. So what does a week of practice look like for our cross country team?
So, you know, it's a lot of hard work. You know, they'll run, like I said, anywhere probably from 50 to 90 miles a week. We'll meet for practice, you know, 6 days a week in season. They'll do 2 workouts a week, which could be anything. You'll see us running around campus. You'll see us running around on the cross-country course. They'll do a long run of up to, you know, 15, 16 miles. You know, it's basically, you know, sometimes they'll come to practice and say, "Coach, what are you doing today?" I say, "We're going to go run." You know, it's pretty simple. We do a few other things, but yeah, at the crux of it, that's kind of what we do.
All right, Coach, thank you so much, and we wish you the best of luck going forward.
No problem, appreciate it.
The Scots Sports Show rolls along right after this. Don't go anywhere. All right, thank you so much.
Cheers, no worries.
NCAA Division II has much to cheer about, as nearly 100,000 student athletes compete with passion and pride. And I'm pleased to share the best news of all. Student athletes are outperforming the rest of the D2 student body in graduation rates. Just another reason why you'll hear us say with pride, "I chose Division II." Learn more at d2sa.org.
Welcome back to the Scots Sports Show. We continue now talking cross country, and we have one of the men's runners, John Guesew. John, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
So we just talked with your head coach, and he was saying how this year is different because you guys have a pack mentality. There's a revolving group at the top 5. What does that add to your team?
It adds a lot of reliance and the ability to come into a meet knowing that I, as an individual, don't have to run my best every meet. I mean, I want to, but it's not going to happen. In years past, we had to rely on everybody in the top 5 before me every week.
And your coach, he's brand new to the program. How have you guys gelled with Coach so far?
I think the transition's gone really well. He did a lot in our first 2 weeks of camp to have team activities and just have a good time, hang out, and it's gone really well. I think he fits in well, and I think we've accepted him really great.
What is the chemistry like on the team between not just the men's team and the women's team, but between you guys as a unit? Because really, with cross country, it's one of those sports that both teams really go to the same places and train with each other.
We're really close with our girls team, I'd say. They're there at every practice with us. They're there at every meet with us. We travel with them on the buses, and it becomes a nice little family. You know, you have your coaches as your parents, and then you got the brothers and sisters, and can relate to the girls, you can relate to the guys, and sometimes if the guys aren't quite ready for, I can't handle them, you can go hang out with the girls a little bit and maybe slow down and hang out and get a good perspective on the day.
This past weekend, you got to run on your home course. It was the Doug Watts Distance Gala. What is it like to be able to run on your home course?
Run on the home course is something really special that we only get to do like once or twice a year because we can't bring in big meets here. So to be able to run on your home course and know your turns, know the hills, and know where you can do, oh, I can push the pace here, oh, I can hold off here and catch them on the downhill. It really gives you a high advantage over your competition who maybe have seen it once, and as a senior I've run it every year since freshman year, so I know it pretty well now.
All right, and coming up, you have a couple weeks before your next meet. What is training going to be like for you?
Training's going to be pretty intense, I'd say. This week we're not racing, so we can really push how the workouts go. You can really dig a lot deeper into them and try to push your body to your bounds that on some weekends when you're racing you don't want to do as much, and it's a good training block to have.
All right, thank you so much for joining us, and we wish you the best going forward.
Thank you.
The Scots Sports Show will come to a close after this. Don't go anywhere. We are talking cross country here on the Scots Sports Show, and I'm now joined by Emma Sullivan. Thanks for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
So let's start with the race this past weekend. It was the Doug Watts Distance Gala, and you got to run on our home course, and you actually were the top finisher of the ones who placed for this meet. So how was this meet for you?
It was a really good first meet. Just for most of it, mostly for us, this was just a dust buster, just getting your spikes back on, getting into that race routine, because obviously our bigger, more important things are coming down the line come October and November. But it was just a great dust buster, and to be able to do it at home on your home course is always the most fun because you can get fans, family, friends come out. My dog Zebo was there, so it was really fun.
Great. And this year you now stepped into a leadership role. You're the top runner right now for the ladies team. What do you have to maintain that leadership role?
I think the biggest thing you should do is just lead by example. There's plenty of inspirational, motivational things. You can be checking everybody and making sure they're doing the right things, but we're also in college and they're 18 years old, and that's not my job per se. But I think by leading by example, by doing the right things, by making sure you go to bed, and you're not out on the weekends like crazy, that's what you have to do. And just when they see the hard work that you're putting in and the results you have, they're going to want to put in the same hard work, because that drive, that to me is in all of them. Sometimes it might not be pulled out as much, but it's in all of them. And especially I've seen it in a lot of the younger girls like Abby Peters. I mean, she had just had a huge race on Saturday, and I'm so proud of her. And Abby Warner racing for the first time in a few years is it's great, and I am super proud of them.
And also a change this year, you have a new head coach for the cross-country team. How have you guys as a team and you individually taken to him?
I think we've taken to him extremely well. I mean, Coach Foster he's just great. He's a lot of fun, and we work hard. And I think that's what he's got that balance of just we're working hard, but we're having fun working hard. And he has this atmosphere where everybody is super motivated. Guys and girls, we want to be together. And I think that is just great to have around. We also love his wife, Kara, being around. It's just a really good atmosphere.
And you touched on it briefly, but the relationship between the teams. I talked with John, and I said, unlike a lot of sports, the men's and the women's team, they practice together, they travel together. What is that relationship like between not only your individual girls and boys team, but the team as a whole?
Are you talking right now or just in general?
In general.
In general, I think the teams have always been very close because, like you said, we do practice together, and it's, at least twice a week. And then when you're on those bus trips, those are the people you talk to, and we just hang out together a lot too. And it's kind of just, I guess it's the great way of putting it, it's just one big family. We have plenty of parts of us that are separate, so there's tons of times when I might not see the girls or the guys for a few days at a time, but I know as soon as I see them, we're going to pick back up and catch back up and everything. So it really is just having one big extended family.
All right, well, thank you so much for talking with us, and we wish you the best on the rest of the year.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
All right, the Scots Sports Show rolls along right after this. Don't go anywhere.
We dig deep. We overcome obstacles. We come together.
We prepare.
We hit the ground running. And we achieve our goals.
We train hard.
And we compete even harder.
We reach new heights.
We win.
And at Edinboro University, we create champions on and off the field.
Thank you so much for watching the Scots Sports Show. But before we go, we'll tell you who are Edinboro's Scots of the Week. Let's start on the ladies' side. The Edinboro Female Scot of the Week is Edinboro Soccer's Alex Brown. She had 2 goals in the 2 games that the Edinboro Soccer played this past week. Both of them wins. Edinboro is off to a great start. Congratulations, Alex, on the Female Scot of the Week.
And on the male side, it was Walter Fletcher, freshman running back for the Edinboro Fighting Scots. He had over 180 yards, 2 touchdown rushes of over 50 yards. Congratulations to you, Walter Fletcher, your male Scot of the Week.
And thank you once again for watching the first Scots Sports Show of the year. We hope you had a good time and have a great day. And remember, to catch up on all things Edinboro athletics, go to GoFightingScots.com. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great day.